Hello and welcome to Minisodes. Today we are playing a game inspired by White Dwarf 207's Clash of Patrols, a custom scenario by Jake Thornton, originally played by Dwarf Luminaries A.D. Wood and Ian Pickstock. Arriving in two waves, the Eldar raiding force's objective is simple: to clear the firebase of all Imperial forces. A small squad of Blood Angels must hold out at all costs and pray that reinforcements arrive in time to fend the raiders off. Let's take a look at our forces. My Blood Angel patrol group consists of squad leader Angelos, 4 Marines with bolters, and 1 with a missile launcher. Sergeant Lariel leads the second squad, armed with a bolt pistol and chainsword, 3 Marines with bolters, and 1 Marine with a flamer. Bike Squadron Lorenzo, currently on long-range reconnaissance, is made up of 1 attack bike with a heavy bolter and 3 bikers armed with a bolt gun, plasma gun, and melter gun. Assault Squad Bardella, the rapid response unit, are all armed with bolt pistols and chainswords, and 3 are packing plasma pistols. And finally, providing valuable air cover, is a land speeder armed with a multi-melter and heavy flamer. Firebase 225's patrol group totals 916 points. Now for James's Iandan raiding force. 4 swooping hawks, armed with las guns and frag and crack grenades, led by an Exarch with a las blaster. An Eldar Viper, armed with a Shuriken Shrieker cannon, twin-linked Shuriken catapults, and a crystal targeting matrix. 3 deadly warp spiders, armed with death spinners. A squad of 5 Eldar scouts, armed with needle sniper rifles, and 5 guardians mounted on jet bikes. 4 of the bikes are armed with twin Shuriken catapults, and 1 with the formidable Shuriken Shrieker cannon. And leading the raiders into battle is a level 2 Warlock champion, mounted on a jet bike with twin Shuriken catapults. James's Iandan raiding force comes to a total of 799 points. Angelos' combat squad deployed in the firebase, guarding against any intruders. Whilst Sergeant Lariel and his Space Marines patrolled nearby. The Tactical Marines were on their own and would have to call upon Blood Angel reinforcements should they find themselves under attack. James deployed his Eldar scouts in the ruins of an overgrown chapel, with a commanding view over the Imperial Firebase. The tactical squad began the game hidden, protected by the plasteel shielding of the firebase. As per the mission rules, James went first and brought on half of his raiding force, the Jetbike squad, along with his Warlock champion. The Jetbikes appeared at breakneck speed, and the riders trained all of their weaponry at Sergeant Lariel's squad in the craters. The scouts, with no visible targets, went into Overwatch, keeping a watchful eye out for any red helmets that might emerge from cover. James's Warlock opened fire and sliced through the power armor of the Marine armed with the Flamer, slaying him in a crimson burst of arterial spray. A combination of cover from the craters and power armor protected the Marines from a fearsome hail of shuriken fire, but another Marine was shredded by a storm of blades. The Warlock, anticipating a reprisal from the Blood Angels, cast Fortune on the jet bikes, giving +2 to the rider's armor save. For my first turn, the tactical squad was on its own, but they reacted immediately. Squad Angelos repositioned to deal with the threat of the jet bikes, moving onto the landing pad. The Eldar scouts blasted sniper fire onto the Marines as they broke from their positions, but the shots either missed or pranged off the power armor of the Marines. Sergeant Lariel whirled round with his 2 surviving brothers, voxing the alert to any patrol elements in the area. Both squads unleashed a hail of bolt gunfire onto the jet bikes, killing a Guardian and sending the bike spinning out of control. At the beginning of James's second turn, the stricken jet bike moved 3d6, but continued at the same altitude. A Viper ushered in the arrival of the second wave of Iandan raiders. The crystal targeting matrix immediately locking onto the tactical squad skulking in the craters. Northeast of the Viper, the Swooping Hawks and their Exarch landed deftly behind a barricade, ready to pour lasfire onto Squad Angelos' exposed flank. Blinking into existence, the Warp Spiders appeared behind some rocks, readying themselves to jump into the midst of the Blood Angels and wreak havoc with their Death Spinners. With the whole of James's Eldar forces now on the board, things were looking bleak for my 8 surviving tactical Marines. The jet bikes zoomed over the heads of the Marines, using the Firebase as cover from any incoming Imperial reinforcements. The Viper locked onto Sergeant Lariel and exploded the Marine in a bloody mess of toxins. As another Marine was scythed down by shurikens. The rear biker got a bead on a Marine, but missed. The Swooping Hawk Exarch fired his las blaster, but failed to do any damage. His companions dealt 2 wounds with their las guns, but the Emperor protects. Not too bad. The Marines were still firmly in control of the Firebase, and help was on the way. In the psychic phase, I attempted to nullify Fortune, but was unable to do so. At the beginning of my second turn, we consulted the Clasher Patrol rules to see where my reinforcements would be arriving. I rolled a 6 for the board edge and rolled up my Assault Marines. Assault Squad Bardella, responding to the now deceased Sergeant Lariel's call for aid, jumped in just behind the jet bikes. Squad Angelos pivoted towards the Swooping Hawks and Warp Spiders and went into Overwatch, as per Imperial battle doctrine for defending a position against tricksy Eldar. In my shooting phase, the lone survivor of Squad Lariel leveled his bolt gun at the Viper. And, whispering a prayer to Sanguinius, sent a bolt straight through the canopy of the Eldar skimmer, slaying the pilot and sending the Viper out of control. Vengeance! Squad Bardella opened fire with all 3 of their plasma pistols, the sustained fire incinerating the Warlock and damaging the engine of the nearest jet bike. A grievous blow to the Eldar Raiders. At the beginning of James's third turn, the jet bike zoomed out of control towards the Warp Spider's position, then flew up into the air and came crashing down somewhere in the jungle. The Warlock slumped over the controls, careened into the jet bike to his left, exploding the bike in a huge conflagration, killing another rider and dealing yet more damage to the rear biker. The Warlock's bike also exploded, oh dear, causing yet more carnage and damaging another bike. The gunner of the Viper attempted to clamber into the cockpit and regain control of the stricken machine, but he fell to his death, and the Viper span out, crashing to the ground just in front of the Marine that dealt the kill shot. Finally, the rear bike lost control and smashed into the bulkhead of the Firebase. James was ready to actually start his turn now and sent his swooping hawks over the heads of the tactical Marines, dropping clusters of frag grenades as they did so. Only one of the 5 grenades scattered, and despite showering the squad with shrapnel, not a single Marine was slain. James resolved to drop crack grenades in the next turn. The Warp Spiders jumped through space and time, emerging unscathed just in front of Squad Angelos. The Marines had anticipated this and fired Overwatch, slaying one with a bolt shell. In the shooting phase, the Exarch fired his las blaster at my assault squad. The Marines were in the open, and the sergeant, along with one of his Marines, was slagged by the burst of las fire. The las guns from the swooping hawks followed suit, but failed to do any damage. James then remembered to move his one operable jet bike and headed towards the scouts, hoping for some respite. 2 of the scouts could draw a bead on the tactical Marines, but failed to do any damage. Death Spinner time! The lightning reflexes of Squad Angelos saved all but one of the Marines, who was rendered into hundreds of cubes of ceramite and gene-wrought flesh. If you've seen Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The spiders then warped out of sight of the Marines. In my third turn, the Assault Marines, bellowing oaths of vengeance, jumped into combat with the swooping hawks. This looked very cool for a moment, but then 2 of them scattered, how embarrassing, leaving just 1 Assault Marine in combat with the Exarch. They might be able to get a shot off against the Warp Spiders, though. Squad Angelos repositioned again, and rolling up reinforcements brought Bike Squadron Lorenzo thundering onto the field, heading straight towards the Eldar scouts. The lone Marine in the crater began the shooting phase, dealing 2 wounds to the Warp Spiders, but their intricate armor deflected the bolt shells. Squad Angelos poured bolter fire into the swooping hawks, killing 1 and hitting their brother Assault Marine twice, but fortunately did not wound him. The Space Marine bikers blazed away with their twin-link bolters, sending 2 scouts tumbling to their deaths. Whilst the attack bike fired at the jet bike, knocking out the engine and sending it crashing to the ground. Not a bad debut for my bikes. An assault marine, with his plasma pistol still charging, fired at the warp spider, but again, the warrior's armor protected him. The Exarch and the assault marine on the tower traded blows. The assault marine landed one wound, but the Exarch survived the blow. With more Blood Angels reinforcements on the way, James needed to strike decisively to turn the tide. The Swooping Hawks left their Exarch to it and buzzed Squad Angelos once more. This time dropping crack grenades and cratering the Marine armed with the missile launcher. Squad Angelos, succumbing to the relentlessness of the Eldar assault, were shaken. The warp spiders hopped out to deal with the assault marines, and the Eldar scouts turned to fire upon the bike squad, dealing one wound that I saved on a 6. The Death Spinners made mincemeat of one of the assault marines before the warp spiders left reality momentarily to reappear behind a ruin. The Swooping Hawk Exarch, using his las blaster in close combat, cauterized the assault marine on the tower and kicked the ruined remains contemptuously off the firebase. In turn 4, the final Blood Angel unit returned from patrol, the Land Speeder, and immediately headed towards the Eldar scouts, looking to winkle them out with its heavy flamer. The last assault marine, seeing the warp spiders blink into existence, gave chase, boosting over the ruin, and after a statter, just about made it into close combat. Bike Squad Lorenzo brought their machines around to lend Squad Angelos support against the Swooping Hawks. In my shooting phase, the Land Speeder torched the remaining Eldar scouts. While the combined efforts of Squad Lorenzo and Squad Angelos purged the remaining Swooping Hawks off their section of the firebase. The last member of Squad Lariel, continuing to prove his worth, sent a burst of bolter fire into the Swooping Hawk Exarch, leaving the Eldar warrior with one wound. The Assault Marine dealt 2 wounds to a Warp Spider, but again, their armor turned aside the killing blows. In James's 5th turn, it was clear that the raid had failed, but the Eldar were resolved to wreak as much vengeance as they could. The second Warp Spider came to his comrade's aid. The Swooping Hawk Exarch dispatched another Marine with a crack grenade. Then annihilated Squad Leader Angelos with his las blaster, leaving one Marine standing. The Assault Marine fought with every ounce of strength and, much to James's chagrin, did not fall to the Warp Spider's assault. In my turn 5, the Land Speeder returned to its landing pad, to find a Swooping Hawk Exarch in the way. That would never do. And Squad Lorenzo gunned their engines, intent on aiding their brother Marine in his battle against the Warp Spiders. The survivor of Squad Angelos fired at the Exarch, wounded him, and slew the warrior once and for all. Well done, Tactical Marines. The lone assault marine, ignoring their protests, demanded that his brothers open fire on the warp spiders. Reluctantly, Lorenzo's bikes opened fire. Both warp spiders and the assault marine disappeared in a hailstorm of exploding bolts. Only in death does duty end. And with no more Eldar left on the board, that was the end of the game. And an interesting one it was too. James and I had a cup of tea and a biscuit, and we took a few things away from this game, certainly. The first is that Marines are tough, especially when they're in cover, and I think I made the most of this. But by far the biggest takeaway was James's use of jet bikes, namely the way that they were positioned. Their tight formation made them vulnerable to sustained fire, which allowed me to allocate wounds to the units within 4 inches of the original target. This certainly resulted in the death of the Warlock and the lethal pile-up of jet bikes that crashed into one another. The squadron rule extends coherency to 6 inches that would have dramatically reduced the effects of sustained fire. That was certainly a hard-won lesson for James. So when his Eldar return to the field in 2026, I expect that the Iyanden craft worlders will have honed their jet bike tactics somewhat. Now, it's true that I had the advantage of an additional 100 points for my forces, but this was supposed to be mitigated by the random units arriving and me having no control whatsoever over which board edge they arrived on. It just so happened that each turn, the right unit arrived exactly where I needed it to. And the sundering of the jet bikes early on prevented James being able to leverage any kind of supremacy over my drip-fed reinforcements, quickly resulting in the Eldar becoming overwhelmed and destroyed. In conclusion, good Space Marining Space Marines, well Space Marined, very well Space Marined indeed. Minisodes has been going in its current format for 6 months now, continuing the Armageddon campaign across the 40k and epic Space Marine systems, painting Dr. Spork terrain, readying Legion of the Damned for the awesome Minisodes vs Miniscape Summer Showdown, restoring a Predator tank for my Blood Angels, and other hobby projects. It has been an absolute blast, and I am so grateful to my Patreon community for making this endeavor possible. The last video of the year is restoring this Land Raider to its rightful place in the Dark Angels chapter. A big thank you and shout out to the latest Minisodes patrons: Fletcher Giles, Gold Teal, Tom Adams, Anna Elizabeth, Wade Norcross, Mario Olivares Gomez, Aidan Delph, Mike Phelan, and Burning Beard Studios. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Happy hobbying, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye-bye!